Mark Silverthorn here. Is credit counseling for suckers? You are not a sucker if you do credit counseling and you want to repay 100% of monies owing to your creditors. Plus, pay exorbitant fees to your credit counseling agency and potentially pay additional interest to your creditors and pay additional monies to creditors not participating in your credit counseling plan, and paying additional monies to creditors garnishing your wages. You might, however, be like most Canadians and want to get out of your current debt situation as inexpensively as possible. And if you are one of these individuals, then I am going to suggest to you that you are a sucker if you do credit counseling. The most charitable description of credit counseling is that a consumer can repay 100% of their debt by making monthly installments to their creditors over 5 years. You may not be aware that credit counseling is the most expensive way for a Canadian to eliminate their debt. How much will you pay to eliminate your debt using credit counseling? If you choose credit counseling, then you may have to pay monies from as many as 5 different buckets. You will have to pay 100% of your outstanding principal and interest owing to your creditors on the date of your enrollment into credit counseling. You will be required to pay fees to the credit counseling agency. Under Ontario law, a credit counseling agency can charge you an additional 15% of what you owe as administrative fees. If your credit counseling plan includes $10,000 in debt, then your credit counseling agency can charge you $1,500 in fees. And if your credit counseling plan includes $35,000 in debt, then your credit counseling agency can charge you more than $5,000 in fees. You might have to pay some interest accruing on some of your debt during the life of your credit counseling plan. Credit counseling agencies negotiate with your creditors seeking interest forgiveness during your credit counseling plan, but they cannot guarantee interest forgiveness. You might not be able to include all your debts in your credit counseling plan. Your creditors are under no obligation to include your debt in your credit counseling plan. Finance companies, for example, routinely refuse to include debts in a credit counseling plan. Your bank might refuse to include your debt in your credit counseling plan because it says you can simply borrow the money and pay off the account, particularly if you have equity in your home. Credit counseling is simply not available for certain categories of debt, for secured debt, mortgages and car loans, and monies owing to the government for things like income tax and student loans. Credit counseling is of no benefit to you if you've been sued by a creditor or if a creditor is garnishing your wages. If you add up all the money that you will pay to do credit counseling, you could be paying somewhere between $1.15 and $1.30 to eliminate $1 of your debt. It is no surprise then that a significant percentage of those enrolling in credit counseling drop out because they cannot afford it. How does credit counseling compare with other debt relief options available to Canadians? We are going to look at 3 alternatives to credit counseling. 1, making monthly payments to your creditor. Number 2, scenarios where you might be able to avoid paying a penny to your creditor. Number 3, scenarios where you may be able to pay substantially less than 100 cents on the dollar to eliminate your debt. Some, but not all creditors, stop charging interest when they place your unpaid account with a collection agency. In these circumstances, you may want to make monthly payments directly to your creditor's collection agency. In this scenario, you will avoid paying the exorbitant 15% administrative fee to a credit counseling agency. You might be in a position where you can avoid paying a penny to your creditors. If you do not own real property and you support yourself on social assistance or on pension income, then you may very well be judgment-proof. In these circumstances, you may be able to avoid paying a penny to your creditor. You might be able to avoid paying a debt due to the passage of time and the expiry of a limitation period. If your creditor does not sue you before the expiry of a limitation period, then you can avoid paying a penny to your creditor. There are several scenarios where a Canadian can pay significantly less than 100 cents on the dollar to eliminate their debt. Once your debt is 6 months old, your creditor may be willing to accept a one-time lump sum payment for significantly less than what you owe as settlement in full. Some Canadians may find it prudent to make a consumer proposal through a licensed insolvency trustee. Unless you have significant equity in your home, then under a consumer proposal, you should be able to eliminate your debt by paying somewhere between 30% and 50% of what you owe to your creditors. This is done by making equal monthly payments over a period of 5 years. Canadians seeking to eliminate their debt will often pay 3 times as much to eliminate their debt using credit counseling compared with consumer proposal. Consumers who do not have high incomes nor significant assets may find it advantageous to file for personal bankruptcy. In summary, credit counseling is the most expensive way for a Canadian to eliminate their debt. There are much better options for a Canadian seeking to eliminate their debt. Once you have all the facts, you will see that credit counseling is for suckers.